This is not brought to you by Zen Skin.
That's your favorite.
I love it. I do love it. I'm an addict, big time for nicotine, especially, and it's a lot better than Copenhagen in my mouth all the time.
I bet. All right, man. Welcome back to the Coyote Radio Show and Podcast. Ritch Henderson's with us. This is round two. First time wasn't so great because we had to like rush it. It was before a show at the Hi-Fi, and I thought, well, we could do it outside, and then which we did. But there's like construction going on and Harleys driving by, all this shit.
Yeah,
But it worked out. So I figured this sit down would be better if we did it like this.
yeah,
And we could have made it. You're fresh. You just got home, right? Back in Alabama.
yeah. We actually drove. We played Duke's Indy, which is a hell of a show. So much fun. A lot of folks in there, and we turned and burned that evening and drove home. So I
Oh,
came home.
really?
Yeah, I came home and thought I was gonna get some rest. I slept for about 15 minutes and then immediately woke up and started doing all the shit that I have to do, when I get home. So
Playing catch up. Yeah.
yeah,
That was a hell of a show. That was a damn good time. Man, that place was packed.
yeah.
Uh, I mean, how many times have you played there?
I played Duke. I started playing Dukes the first time I played it. I guess about 5 years ago. I opened for a fellow named James Scott Bullard out there, and the last time that I played it was the night before Dustin passed away, unfortunately. And after that, I hadn't really been back since. But I think I played it 3 times before. I've been in the indie market a couple times, it's like 6 or 7 times over about a 5 year span, and
Yeah.
a couple support shows and 2 headlining shows, I
Yeah.
believe. Last time, probably shouldn't even say this online because it'll kill my cool factor, but I don't give a shit. I'm not one of those artists that wants to conflate what my experience is. The last time I played in Indy, we sold 31 tickets, and it was tough. And you have those, and sometimes it's demoralizing. But to bounce back, we were technically with the tables in Dukes, we sold it out. We were over capacity for what they were. I probably shouldn't say that either. Supposed to have in there, but sorry, Dukes. Love y'all. Long time. But it was good. It was good to get some folks to come out. And I think the record coming out and people really receiving it well has had a lot to do with our ticket sales starting to grow lately.
Yeah. When you were on last, we were talking about the record hadn't been released yet. You'd sent me the record, so I was able to listen through it. Um, I think I was traveling down south for work, and I was able to just like from start to back, front to back without even stopping it. So that was kind of nice.
Yeah.
Uh, and I knew like, and I told you that how much like I thought there, there's a lot of artists out there that just there's always someone good, but to hear someone like I like felt it more than just heard it because of the lyrical content. I think you're a hell of a writer,
Thank you.
and I believed your message in those songs or what you were going through. I believed you. It wasn't like this. Oh, this is a catchy line. I think people will relate to it. You're just like you put your heart and soul in it. Is what I'm getting at,
Yeah.
and it came across, and I think it's resonating with folks for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, like the whole process and really the whole point of this is like did a corporate job for a little while and I wasn't a fan of it. And then I started a business and it was pretty wildly successful for what I expected to be. So I finally had some coin. And that was like growing up poor. I thought all you ever needed was money to be happy. And then once I got it, I was miserable. And I was like, fuck this shit. I'm going to go do what I really want to do, which is make songs and play them for people. And when I started doing it, I was just like, I've been through some shit over the last 10 years of my life, really, since I got out of high school, because I made terrible choices, frankly. But I'm going to be honest about it and write songs that I like. And I don't give a shit at all if other people do or don't like them. I'm not going to think about what's hip or what the trend is or any of those things. I just want to make a record that I'm going to like. And took me a couple tries to get there. But when I finally had that one, I knew it was like I'd reached the point of artisanal experience that I wanted to be before I kind of made my effort as in a debut. So that's what came of
Yeah.
it.
Now you mentioned I think you said on stage at the show on this past Saturday at Duke's, uh, had over 1 million streams now and on the new
Yeah.
record.
Yeah, it just broke 1 million streams, and that's I don't know how many it is between all of the platforms. I don't really look at that. I just look, and I probably should pay more attention, but I just look at Spotify and Apple Music. So
Yeah.
between the two, it went over. It actually went over a couple weeks ago, and I just didn't. It's probably something you should post and do the
Yeah.
look at me
Look at
shit.
this.
Yeah, look, hey, this thing that I already thought was great has been validated by honestly the algorithm because of people's inputs to it. But I don't know. I figured I'd talk about it to the homies that are at the shows, and maybe I will post about it later. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
proud that it did, no doubt, because put a considerable amount of time and effort and money into that thing, and you don't really know. All you can do as an artist is know that you're really proud of it. When you put it out, people can be like, "This is dog shit. I'm moving on."
Yeah.
You usually have like 3 seconds for people to make that choice too. They're like on Spotify, you got about 3 to 5 seconds. Somebody straight up skips your shit. I mean, it's no time.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know. People in general, and I'm sure you probably do too. I know I've done it. It's just like our attention span with the way the world is right now and all the technology and shit that's in our face all the time. It's just so easy to like overlook something. So it's like just slow down sometimes and just
You
take a
know,
bow, give it a chance before
I can't even
skip it.
talk any. I can't talk any shit because while I agree, like with attention span and all those other things as well, I'm also one of those unfortunately and tragically pompous music listeners. Like if if you kick off a song in a way that I think is a cheap way to go about it or something I don't vibe with, it doesn't turn me on immediately. It might not get there. Like I try my best. Like whenever I get submissions for the Alternative AF, the playlist that I run, it's my playlist. I don't say that I run it. It's not like some corporation has it. It's just mine. There's no way to skew it. But when I get those submissions, I found myself being a little better at making sure I'm not like, well, this guitar tone in the intro sucks. Next, like I would usually do on records that don't just move me. So I'm at least starting to find some songs that maybe had a part in the beginning I didn't like, or it took too long to get to the chorus. Um, Forcing myself to listen to it to give those artists a fair chance, like I would want to be given a fair chance in that scenario, has actually made me more of an active listener without before something gets a hold of me and moves me, and it's led me into a direction of finding more music. So I don't know what the answer is to help other people get there, but for me, it was curating this playlist that gets I'm inundated with submissions by every artist in the world, and being an artist, I want to listen to every one of them to make sure that I don't miss the homies that I don't know that have like put the time in to make great art and deserve an opportunity to be on the type of platform that thing is kind of spiraled into, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, it's just crazy how things are uh, regarding that, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that's why you gotta don't bore us. Get to the chorus, baby.
Yeah, come out with the swinging, man, right out the gate.
Yeah, we kind of did that intentionally on the record too, and I say we. It was more the gentleman who produced it, Brett Robinson. He's got a lot more. He gives a lot more of a shit about what people think. I think about the art because I'm just like, nah, this 14 fucking minute intro is sick. Let's keep it. And he's like, no. And as a matter of fact, we need to find a way to maintain the integrity of the storyline, but also lose one of the verses out of the song too. So it was a
Right.
good balance working with him. He kept all our intros on the record nice and short. Only one song on the record didn't get to the chorus in under 60 seconds. So that was a pretty good success as far as like formatting is concerned.
Yeah, so your record has 10 tracks and that's a lot, to manage and figure out what needs to stay and go and I don't know, man. Like I don't think that department would be for me. I'm just a
It's hard.
listener and avid music lover. I don't think I can do that.
It's hard to trim off the fat too, because particularly with it being fallacies and four-letter words, that record, it's a concept record. I know some people think those are cheesy. It's kind of an ode to my experience, or maybe the perception of my experience, or a Southern experience, and the things that we go through down here. But I'd started when I booked the time for the studio sessions. I had a 12-song record already finished, and I nixed 6 of those songs and wrote 4 new ones in the studio. So it was like
Did you
we
feel the pressure, or was it like it went smooth?
no, it just kind of happened for real. I'm not one of those artists who's like, you need to write every day. I don't ever put any pressure on myself to write. If I guess in a way, in a process, I'm always writing, just not complete songs start to finish. But the way that I go about it is usually I'll find a melody on guitar, whether it be some kind of warm up exercise or something I'm doing, or maybe a melody that comes to me, uh, pops in my head, comes to me in my dreams, whatever. The reptile aliens give it to me from outer space. And I'll take that melody and work it until some kind of line comes to me that matches the emotion. But for that scenario, something about being around the most creative people I'd ever met in my life for days and days on end, because we stayed in an Airbnb. It was a Victorian house down in Montgomery, built in the late 1800s, all together. It's like we were in the studio all day together. We left the studio and went to the Airbnb, and it was sometimes it was a hang, sometimes it was philosophical discussions, and sometimes it was creating, off the clock per se. But
Hmm.
Brett, the producer, and also a very good friend of mine, he went in there. We recorded Dock Lights, which is a new one that I'd written there in the session, and he was like, "Well, the new one is probably my favorite so far, although that changes for me daily. Go write another new song for us to record." So I went to the Airbnb and wrote, just word vomited all this shit. I had like 57 verses
Oh
to
my.
this song. It was crazy, and they all could fit and work. So I narrowed it down to like the very least that I thought I could trim down to. And we went and cut the arrangement of the song down. So we did the rhythm section, everybody in one room, and then a scratch vocal while we were in the room. And I quickly realized that the timing of the stanzas were not gonna fucking work at all. Like as soon as I went to lay a scratch vocal, it sounded like there were so many words. It sounded like I was running a hip hop verse, and I had no idea what had happened to get me to this point. It was almost like, James McMurtry's got that one song on the Horses and the Hounds record that's kind of like he's fucking spitting, son. It's almost a mixtape, but he pulls it off. He pulled it off. I was not about to pull it off. It was very bad, and I looked at Brett, and Brett looked at me, and he was like, "Hang on a minute, don't freak out, dude. We can fix this. What is this supposed to be, spoken word or something?" And everybody was laughing, absolutely ripping me to pieces because it was horrible, worst thing of all time. And
Now I want to hear it.
it was so bad. I actually made the engineer delete it. I would not allow him to keep it. And the engineer on my record's name is Robert Shemp. He's a Grammy award-winning engineer. He did some work with REM and some other major names. No need to do all the name dropping. He's a gangster in his own right, regardless of who he's worked with. But he was like, I got you, buddy. I'm not going to let that exist anymore. I'll permanently delete this one forever." So we went back to the Airbnb after, because it was towards the end of the session, and I was like, I'll rewrite the song. I'm just going to rewrite the whole song. And then Brett ended up coming back and kind of piecing down. He was like, "This is how much interval we need to fit lyrics in. You pick the lyrics that make sense with the storyline of this song and edit the rest out." So we did that, came back in there on the next day, hit it in a single take, and the rest is history. I'm also probably not going to say what song it was because I don't want people to be one way or the other about the song, because the record first dropped, it was like the third least listened to song, and now it's starting to kind of climb its way up, which has been a strange thing to watch on the analytical side of things. It's like what was popular when it first dropped versus some of the songs are more of a slower burn for the audience, I guess, because once they've heard them 10 or 12 times, they're digging a little deeper into some of the ambiguity that I put in the lyrics, and it's starting to kind of move around some of the used to be bottom feeders into the top contenders as far as stream counts go. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish you would have deleted that.
Oh, dude, it was so embarrassing.
This
I
man could have made a whole remix, remaster of the record.
Listen, dude, I've been in all kinds of precarious situations in my life, and I do not get nervous about anything. I have panic attacks, that's a whole different story, but it's not like nerves. And I'm never shaken. There's not some shit that can pop off that makes me get like wide eyed and makes me freeze. The first time in probably 15 years, I was shook, son. My confidence was gone. And I've written a lot of songs, dude. I've performed some cool ass stages. I've opened for literally the greatest songwriters of all time. Some of them are my friends and heroes, man. And in this moment at the studio, I went swinging for the fences and I didn't even fucking tip the ball at all. I missed entirely. And then we came back the next day and I got it hammered out, but it was legendary. And the four humans that exist on the face of this planet that heard it all laugh like belly laughs anytime it's mentioned. When I mention it, it'll bust their guts up. That's how bad it was. But they also knew it was bad enough that if any of us wanted to maintain our careers, we needed to immediately delete it. So that's what
Yeah.
we did.
Well, at least you're honest about it, you know.
Yeah, I feel like most people have had that scenario where they've written a song and it you get pretty close to these ideas more so than the execution, or at least I do as a writer, and then you can get out to a fully fleshed song and be like, "Oh God, this is fucking horrible. What am I? I'm in the third grade songwriting convention right now, and I need to just throw this shit in the trash." But
Wow.
we made the record, you know.
If other writers haven't been there, then they're just lying.
Yeah, they're lying, or y'all buckle up because it will get you one day. It will.
Yeah, you're just getting started. Yeah.
Yeah, I was 5 years into my career when it got me, and I'd had like from other people's perspective, I was on like a 25 song spree. I haven't had anybody be like, "That's awesome, but you need to maybe think about it this way or that." Like I've just been sending the songs to my confidants, and they'd be like, "Damn, I'm waiting for you to send me one that I can tell you sucks to pop your head down a little bit." But as the universe would have it, it happened to me in a very expensive recording session. So the pressure was on.
Yeah.
But it did make me want to go. I've got a couple different options for records coming up, a couple different things to look at. But I really think on my second iteration of what will be the predecessor to Fallacies and Four Letter Words, I'm on a working title right now of Machiavellian Misgivings. I think I'm going to go into the studio with Alabama Sound Company with no material whatsoever and create every single song from scratch with the boys in the room.
Oh man, that
It's
would be
a
fun though. Like I think,
prospect, but yeah, nobody does it. So like, I want to try. You know,
yeah,
the three songs that I did that way on the record are my favorite without a doubt.
yeah. What's your favorite song on the record? I mean, depends on what day you probably ask you, but
Yeah, there are different songs strike me for different reasons. Like there are songs that I have favorite arrangements of. There are songs that I enjoy lyrically the most. There are songs that maybe the performance of a certain player on the song really strikes me, like Jimmy Teardrop's guitar solo in "Let Go for Dear Life" at the end. It's really the only time we gave him an opportunity, or he took the opportunity would be a better way to say, to really just kind of rip it for a minute. And like if you know Jimmy Teardrop, he tours with Drayton Hurley now, um, but he's just an absolutely it's almost insulting how good he is. Like he can shred with the very best of them, but more often than not in the studio that comes through in restraint and laying down something super tasty instead of just shredding all over the place. But he rips a guitar solo towards the end of that song right into the outro of it that still to this day just quenches all of my Led Zeppelin rock and roll thirst that I have in my body. But then you have songs like um, Wishing Well that I am super connected to for different reasons. Like I really enjoyed the arrangement on that song and the way we fleshed it out and what it ended up being comparable to where it came from in the beginning of our session. But also, like that was a really intense revelation I had on social commentary while I was, probably shouldn't say this out loud, but tripping on LSD when I wrote that song. So it was a really weird time back when I used to get into the things that I was getting into, and that song lyrically came out just as fast as I could write it down. And it still to this day, when I listen to that song, I'll find new meanings and new things that was said lyrically that I'm just like, man, because it was almost like, and really a lot of my songs are like I don't even write them, almost just like I'm an antenna to receive from whatever alien is giving the songs out to songwriters. And that one, I got into some weird territory there, particularly I guess with the presence of psychedelic substances, but um, that one's up on the list for me. Or should I say that one has stayed number one or number two for the longest, for sure.
Okay. I don't have a favorite, man. I To me, it's like um, it's more about my mood that makes me decide. So it always changes, but the big one that's always stream finally coming around is,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a banger track, dude. Lyrically, all the way around, like the whole thing, arrangement. Uh, I don't know. Yeah, I can't just pick one.
Yeah, for me it changes around as well. It does. I love there's a like a real trashy horn solo section in Autumn Moon that I love to death. Um, Dock Lights is one of my favorite songs I've ever written, just because of how close it is to me. It's like I had the opportunity in that song to not really need to hide behind anything, but just talk very honestly and really probably without a lot of ambiguity or entendre in that one. That one's pretty straight on the nose, and it's just where I came from and my experience that I had and being afraid of never getting out of the town that I now have moved back to and live here extremely happily. But when you don't know if you're going to have the option to see anything else or go anywhere else, I thought I was potentially going to live and die inside of a town that's 2 square miles, So it's like
Yeah.
it, that one right there, it hits me good. But really, I enjoy it as a total work, and to this point, I didn't really listen to my own songs very much. And now that the record's out, it's not so much now as it was when I first had it, particularly pre-release. I was listening to it obsessively to just make sure everything was as I would desire it to be. And then once it came out, I got to listen to it differently because there was like no changes to be made. And really, the process in which we recorded it didn't lend for very many changes to be made because we were in a room of this big ass old church playing rock and roll music together. So, but it freed me once it went to the world. It wasn't really just mine anymore, and I got to kind of enjoy it from a different, um, almost as an audience, with an audience perspective. And it
Hmm.
grew on me a lot more when the pressure was off after it came out, and I like it. I'm really proud of it. I enjoy the music on it. I don't know if that's egotistical to say that I enjoy my own songs, but I just really am proud of the art that we made, and us allowing all of the artists in the space to really contribute artistically as well gives me more free reign to be less critical of the work and super into it, because it wasn't just me that made those songs what they are. Like it was the fellas that I
Right.
worked with all the way down from the B engineer. Like if the B engineer that was on the record, his name is Tyler. We call him Tyler the Magnificent. If he had an idea, we would try it and hear it out. Like everybody, um, Brett's really special in that way of finding a way to squeeze the very best out of whoever he's around. Like he will absolutely take those options and scenarios. The dichotomy of Brett Robinson is that he will squash a lot of ideas that even if you're close to him, if they don't need to fit in there, they're not fucking happening. Like he will draw that hard line, and sometimes for artists, that's a difficult thing to concede to somebody um, when it's your art you're working on. But there is a fine line of a hill to die on there as well. And really, when you're working with somebody that's really headstrong like that, it allows you to keep the things that you absolutely have to have. And it also makes you realize very quickly the things that you're not so sold on. And that has helped me as an artist and a creator going forward, just the way I think about lyrics or arrangements or guitar parts or even guitar tones or the reverb, that we have, or tremolo pedals we may be using. It's been a whole thing for me. So um, if there are any young artists out there listening and you find a producer that might be hurting your feelings a little bit, I challenge you to listen a little and take what you can from it, because it's going to make you better in the long run. Provided there's always a catch, provided that person isn't a dipshit and they know what they're talking about. It's a pretty
Yeah.
big deal.
Yeah. Another thing I really like about your record too is how well a lot of these songs work stripped back, just you acoustically.
Yeah.
And that's obviously where you probably build the songs from the ground up like that, but
Yeah.
um, they work either way, and I feel like they're just as powerful um, either way you go about it. So it's kind of, I don't know, a lot of artists that I know that do that and go both ways with a song or release. One's usually more favored than the other in my book, just opinion.
Yeah.
But for you, I feel like, man, someday I can't pick, because I've seen you live a handful of times now, and sometimes you were solo and you weren't with the band, and I heard these songs stripped back, and then you hear them full band, like I saw Healing Appalachia with you, or
Yeah.
this past weekend. So you know what I mean. So
Yeah. Well, for me, it's a thing that I think to really get the best of both worlds, sometimes when you get in the studio in a full band scenario, you really want to stretch that arrangement a little bit and let it take a life of its own, and recognize that, like the way I'm probably going to release The Fall and Hello Darlin' solo acoustic here pretty soon, because they're very different than what you hear on the record. Like I changed the arrangement on those songs entirely. I changed the chord progression on Hello Darlin'. It's not even the same. It's the same lyrically and melody. It's melody, vocal melody still the same, but we've gotten way off into the weeds with that one, and it's a beautiful song. It's the second favorite song on the record at this point, and people love it. The people at Duke's Indy were singing that song. They weren't singing it from the acoustic version that we're all used to, but they were singing it while I was playing the acoustic version that started. So
yeah,
like if you take those chances artistically, you can end up with two very different pieces of art from one song. And really, if you have good songs, and maybe even push it past good songs, but if you start with a great song, your chances of that will be better. If you have good songs, you're going to work it a little bit, but you got that opportunity. And then for me, I've played so many shows and I've spent so many hours by myself with a guitar that I've developed it into a thing. It's not like I've toured for 10 years with only a band and then now I'm going to go do an acoustic run and I'm trying to figure out just how to cowboy chord through these things. It's something that I have developed, and that was born out of necessity, because before I had a band or could get musicians to come play these songs with me, I wasn't going to take no for an answer. I mean, for the people that don't know who I am or haven't been out and know any of my story, like I've been at this for 6.5 years now, and I started in a car with a guitar and a Mackie 15 by myself, playing in bars that had never heard of me for tips. I did that until I found some homies in a community and made contact with some of my artists that I was listening to, that I love their music, and became friends, and they kind of put me on a lot. Arlo McKinley is a major one. I've done some shows with 49 and a couple with Drayton, and it's one of them things that's truly where I came from. So in all of the process for these songs, I begin with just a guitar, and in the process of Fallacies, I'd lived with a lot of those songs for 4 or 5 years and developed them on the road, and then got in the studio after audiences had been listening to them for 4 or 5 years and changed them 100%. Which at first I had a couple messages from people that were like, dude, I don't know how I feel about this. And then like day number 4, they're like, you're right, this is fucking amazing. So cool. I had to get what I was used to needed to be replaced by something else. But yeah, that's the thing. Work on the craft. If you're going to be a writer, and some writers believe if you write your own songs, you're superior, and you are. and I can go and tell you why for lots of reasons. People who don't write their own songs are going to call me a dick, but I don't care. Write your own songs, even if they're not as good as other people's songs. Art is relative. If you want to do this thing, work on writing songs. If anything, if you're co-writing with a bunch of people, you're gonna be a more valuable asset to the product at the end. So like, if you want to sing and play, try the art. And I get that the performance of those songs is an art. Being an entertainer is an art, and I'm definitely not arguing that. I think it's a valuable art, but songwriting is the genesis to all of these things. And if you're a lot of songwriters who are just songwriters don't get to make a lot of coin because the percentage on royalties is the least amount of cut out of anybody. So I think it's like right around what producers get for being on records.
Hmm.
But that's my soapbox for that. Write your own songs,
Yeah, I'm
or at
with
least at least help your homies write them. You know what I mean?
you. Yeah.
Be in the room, try to learn something. I don't know.
Hey, I
It's
stand with
challenging.
that.
It's challenging. It'll make you a better person. You'll have to look at all the dumb shit inside your head.
Yeah. So what's 2024 looking like for you? You got big plans or touring?
Yeah, we're gonna be touring, doing a lot of full band shows. We got some pretty major support stuff lined out. Um, Looking into some management agency moves for the year. Looking to really get it up to the next level of, you know, doing the thing for real. Because for the most part, I've just been trying to trick people into letting me come to their room, and then by the time I get there, hoping I can be good enough that they'll have me back. And so far, that's been the story. But it's finally, with the records getting enough movement to where agents work on a percentage basis. If you can't sell tickets, there's no fucking reason for an agent to work for you. It doesn't matter how cool you are or how hard you're trying to work. You got to get to a level to really kind of play this game, at least at the level that I want to play it at. And depending on who the individual or what the company is that you choose to go with, really depends on what your metrics need to look like. But I've just had this feeling that I'm getting pretty close. Things are starting to move in a direction over here comparable to what they have been for the last 5 years before I had a record out. And knowing that I'm about to go make two more records that are, I think I'm getting better. I think all of the people that I work with are getting better. And I also have can't really announce it yet. I'm going to announce it, but I can't say any details about it. I'm calling in an absolute killer superstar to do some work on a separate record as well. So looking to be like, maybe if I just feel Captain Insano and want to do things that are not financially intuitive, I might release two records in 24.
Oh man,
So yeah, we'll
busy
see. I
man.
know, I know that I'm dropping one, but I do believe if everything comes to fruition the way that the universe is looking like it's going to, I'm probably going to put out two in 24.
Yeah, that'd be great. Now I got
Yeah,
to ask too, because you're public about saying this, and even on stage. You're sober now, right?
yeah.
For how long?
23 months now.
23, clean of everything.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
weird.
Congrats. You know,
Thank you. It's I don't know. I just started to. I was drinking a lot on the road, not like getting DUIs or missing appointments or not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, just drinking all the time. And I was like, man, I'm probably
yeah,
gonna stop doing this because I need to know that I can. And then when I started my sobriety, I was like, dude, this kind of fucking sucks right here. You know, this is harder than I thought it would be.
yeah,
Maybe I'm starting to like develop an attraction to this substance. And strangely enough, for me, when I stopped drinking alcohol, I just got to where I realized that I was using it to escape, and I wasn't so much into that. I felt like 10 years of escaping from this shit that I need to deal with has led me into crisis mode when I don't have the medicine, air quotes, that I've been using to hide away from all this shit, so I needed to face it. And once I got through it, I got to thinking about how I didn't even realize that I was shoving everything down. And it's like, if I go back to that, then that's the way I'm going to cope with the challenges I face in my life as a dad, an artist, a man, any of those things. So I figured probably be best for me to be sober. And I've been like taking care of my health and shit. It's strange.
It's strange.
That's strange, like I was on a path, dude. I was going to be like, I don't know, fucking dead before too long, probably. I wasn't living a very good life. I was having a hell of a lot of fun, but I guess kind of getting older too helps put all those things in perspective for
Yeah.
you. Where I felt like I was invincible because I didn't think I was going to make it back from Afghanistan when I was a kid. So once I got out and was like, damn, everything's going to be good, I felt like I was on borrowed time and I could just do whatever I wanted to. And then after doing that for a decade or so and not dying or ending up totally fucked, I was like, man, I better straighten up. It seems like I'm going to be around for a while.
Yeah, if I haven't kicked it yet, might.
Yeah, if I'm not dead yet, I probably got a little while on this bad boy, and I need to kind of try to do the right things and become the person that I actually want to be. So that's kind of what I've been working on.
Yeah. Yeah, the reason I brought it up is when you had all these songs in the bag for a while, and those were times where you were drinking or maybe under the influence or something. And I know
Yeah.
a lot of people like to write certain songs when they feel a certain way, but to write one like completely sober, I didn't know like how you would transition to something like that, or if you
Well, for
felt any
me,
differently.
because of my process, like I'm always taking stuff in, etc. And now, oftentimes, when I would sit down with a guitar to piece everything together, usually it was with a drink in my hand, or I'd smoked a little bit of pot, or occasionally, sometimes I'm like tripping on psychedelics or whatever. But there were also times when I was writing sober as well. The biggest thing for me about getting sober was the voice in the back of my head. The thing that wanted me to keep doing the shit I don't need to do was telling me that if I stop those substances, I'm done. If I'm not drinking, you're not going to be able to write good songs that are meaningful, that move people. And then my most recent song that I've been playing out that we've recently recorded has been arguably my favorite song I've ever written, and arguably the most powerful song I've written. I've had people every night after I play it, that's what they come to in my set. Which, to be fair, it's the last thing on their mind because I usually close my set out with it. But that's the resounding validation that I'm getting, is that this song is arguably my best one yet, my most honest and vulnerable yet, and it was written when I was sober. And really about learning to be sober and trying not to fall apart in those scenarios, because I've been suffering with panic attacks every day. And
Mm,
it's a different thing. It's a thing for me that it's all day long, and I can be good for 15 minutes sometimes and sometimes for an hour and a half, but I can't go to grocery stores and do that type of shit. And I'm trying to figure out how to navigate those situations to get back into all of the normal things that people do, because pretty much my interaction with people in the outside world, other than slipping into a gas station here and there to fill up the Forerunner, is my show performances. And there it's a little different because those are my people. If you came to my show and you resonate with the songs that I've written about my experience, and I've been honest in those songs, then the chances or the probability of you and I being cut from the same cloth are pretty high. That's
yeah.
also one of the reasons why I say to write your own songs, because if you're looking to build a lifetime experience here, something you want to do always, you're really going to resonate with the people who resonate with the art that you've created from your heart and your soul, instead of just some shit that you thought might push some tickets or get some more streams on Spotify.
Right. Yeah. Man, that's all there. I mean, that all resonates. Man, panic attacks to go in the grocery store? That's rough.
It's a strange thing for me that, like, mine evolved pretty quickly after I started having them into panic disorder, which the way my therapist and my doctors have described this to me is it's essentially an evolution of post-traumatic stress. the fight or flight mechanism inside of me is broken. So randomly, sometimes with certain triggers, and sometimes more often than not, no trigger at all, I'll get juiced with adrenaline like I'm fighting for my life for no reason. And my heart rate goes through the roof, and I feel just this horrible sense of impending doom. For me, it's led to a lot of obsessive thoughts about like heart attacks or stroke. But of course, I've been to the doctor. I've had all of the tests you can have. Everything on me is healthy. Blood pressure's good. Everything's fine. But in the midst of those more terrifying attacks, you can't. There's no reasoning with yourself at all. And
Yeah.
even physiologically, everything is totally fine with you. It's something that I heard people talk about anxiety before. Um, I just wasn't so sure because I never dealt with anything like that. Even in my PTSD, it wasn't when I was struggling with that from my time in the Marine Corps. It wasn't really anxiety that I had to deal with, like aggression and rage more than anything. So the panic, which is an evolution of anxiety, that I never even got the anxiety step because I was drinking all the time with it, keeping me calm and not feeling anything really. Um, to go straight to the panic was a very unnerving experience. And then,
Yeah.
it's been a year and whatever, 10 months now, 23 months I've been going through it. And it's an uncomfortable thing because it's not always the grocery store. Sometimes I'm sitting at home, or sometimes I'm asleep and I wake up with these panic attacks to where I'm like certain that I'm dying, and
God, man.
being a father with kids, I don't want to leave my kids, we're just getting to the good part. All of the things, I feel like I have more of a legacy to leave, and all of the things that I love and hold dear for a while were kind of held against me by my own mind as ammunition, which is an even more fucked up thing. I know anybody who's experienced this is nodding their head right now, like, yes, that's exactly what this is. But one of the things that I remind myself is that it's been 23 months and I haven't died yet. You know, 23
Yeah.
months, nothing catastrophic has happened. No strokes, no heart attacks. They're not going to happen. So anybody who's at like the most extreme part of this spectrum of anxiety or panic, fucking call me. Hit me up on Instagram if you need to talk about it. If you need somebody to just remind you you're going to be fine, because I've been there. I've been in the grips of it. I've been in the emergency room so many times. I'm embarrassed to admit it. But don't fall back on the things that kept you from it, because it's something you got to get through. Because eventually, this supposedly will go away. You know,
Yeah.
and then I'll be back to normal, and I'll be sober instead of just drinking to shove it back down and then staving off the inevitable. Either I can drink until I'm dead, or
Right.
do drugs until I'm dead, or I can face this shit head on and eventually get through it.
Right.
So it's a strange experience, dude. Very strange. First time I've ever been afraid of anything.
Man. Well, I'm sure people, there's so much shit out there. I mean, I don't even want to even go down that road really because there's so much shit in my family and friends and all that. We all have our own shit to deal with, but hopefully someone that's listening to this and here's your point of view that's going through it at that extreme level, because that is definitely an extreme level.
Yeah,
They can know, they're not the only ones, and hell, they might reach out to you.
yeah. I'm serious about that shit too. Like I'm pretty busy, and it might take me a little bit to get to you. Got a lot of open links of communication these days between the alternative and the music stuff and family, etc. But I try, whether it's just small talk or really somebody's going through some serious shit that I might have some experience in, I try to talk to everybody who wants to talk, because at the end of the day, I'm in the business of trying to connect with people. And to think that I've done something in my life that's important enough to people, whether it be art or maybe a conversation we've had at a show, to make them feel comfortable enough with me that they want to reach out and discuss something, whether that's how cool they think a song is, or they like a t-shirt that they bought from me, anything. Like, I want to give that the time that they've given me on the things that I would hope that they found valuable, like my art. So it's important. Um, to me to always think to go ahead and put that net out there and let folks know. I know some people say that as an artist, it's not a reasonable experience or something to think you should even do, but I feel like at least while I'm at this level and it's still somewhat manageable, it's kind of my duty to talk to my tribe because again, I feel connected to people that like my music because it comes from a real place for me. So for them to enjoy it, the things that we have in common have to be far greater than the things that we don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. That's great. Yeah, man, I had to put the brakes on me, dude. I'm going to shows constantly. I'm drinking all the time. I did a show at I went to Drayton's show a couple months ago, back in September, and I just got hammered, dude. And we filmed a podcast after, and I remember going, I shouldn't have drove home. I drove home drunk.
Yeah.
Terrible decision, you know. No, nothing happened, but just like realized felt like shit. And then I watched the video back. I was like, told Drayton, I was like, dude, I can't hear this. It's that sloppy. I was like, this is fucking embarrassing. He's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I had too much too, man, because we're drinking some Jack or whatever,
Oh yeah.
and it was
Stuff
just
will get on you.
God,
It'll get on you quick.
God. Well, Jack Daniels won that night, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't had anything to drink since. So I'm not saying I'm done forever, but I'm gonna prove to myself that I can manage it, at
Yeah.
least go that route. And if I find that I can't, because I know people that tried that, you know, then it's got to be all done with. You got to stop. So,
Yeah. It's one of those things for me. Like uh, Ethan Perkins used to play bass for me, and he was my right hand man for a long time. And we always used to talk to each other about like flexing the muscle of discipline. And particularly on the things that you enjoy the most, those are the things you probably need to really show that, like, hey, I can keep a hold of this thing. Like, alcohol can be good. For centuries, it's been used for good. As long as you do it in moderation, you keep a hold of it because it is a powerful sedative. And it will numb you up if you absolutely need to be numbed up. And I mean that in the physiological sense of like using it for medicine on the Civil War battlefields, all the way to going through some shit that you cannot possibly fathom or manage emotionally, so you numb for a while until you can get to a point to where there's enough distance to where you can. The thing is using anything, particularly anything that controls your emotions habitually, is a dangerous thing. And I mean that with persuasion. I mean that for substances. um, Maybe not art unless you get super obsessive. Art's probably the only real constructive thing that manages emotions that you can just go all in on. And I'm finding for me it's been a much better experience going that direction instead of just drinking all of the scotch that I want to drink because boy, I love scotch. I love it.
yeah, I hear you. Well, man, this has been a great chat, dude. I appreciate you coming on,
Yeah,
digging
dude.
in
Thanks for having me.
into these songs a little bit in the process. Last time was so rushed, like I said, this felt much better. So,
Yeah, man. I appreciate you. Of course, not only having me on the podcast, but just being the dude that you are and giving a shit about the music that me and the homies make.
yeah,
It's starting to come into the mainstream now, so it's a lot more people are interested in what we're doing. But you know, it's been a part of that are folks like you that have been for years shouting to the rooftops what we're all doing and trying to just get anybody who might be interested to pay attention. So the boys over at the Thicket and Hippies and Cowboys, same
yep.
thing. It's folks like y'all that there's not really a lot in it for you to do this. It's not like you're going to make a whole shitload of money doing it.
No, I'm
You're
not
doing
making any
it
money.
because you know that it's valuable, or you feel that the art that we make is valuable, and you want to broadcast it to more people. And it's fucking working. It's working, and it's not just me that is seeing a change in our actual life. And I mean, this is translating into better opportunities for me to provide to my kids. Like this is not just some vanity pursuit here. This is really translating into becoming a sustainable career that I can have, much like someone who went to school to be a doctor has. Nobody looks at them like they're crazy for trying to do that. Um,
Right.
Everybody looks at us like we are, but folks like you and the artists like myself, we've kind of joined together and refused to allow this fire to go out. So thank you for that. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Yep. Lover of music. That's how it all started. That's it. So we'll keep it going. We're almost to 100 episodes.
That's what they say. Once you get past 100 episodes, you start getting your real, you start really getting your traction in your game, which they say it's 10 years in the music industry is when you really turn that leave. And for me, technically, I've been playing drums since I was a kid, and I've been doing it professionally for a lot of years. So I'm coming up on 24 years of that now. But 6.5 doing writing my own songs, playing guitar, singing, doing that route. So I feel ahead of schedule in
Yeah.
my step.
Yeah. If you
Even
take
though I'm
the
sure people
drumming
are like,
career,
"Damn, that 33-year-old ass motherfucker's old as shit for this game." But the couple of the labels that might have thought that years ago are in my DMs and emails now. So
good
what
deal.
now, sucker?
Hell yeah, man. All right, buddy. Well, I'll definitely see you in the future anytime you come through.
Yeah, man.
Um, I know you'll be at the Hi-Fi in 29th of January. Is that right?
January 27th, I'm going to be opening
27th.
for Sunday Best. Um, Nick Jamerson is obviously the singer of that group and songwriter, one of my favorite songwriters ever. D at Hi-Fi has been so good to me with getting me the things that I need. And I don't mean to name drop her saying to go message D for all of y'all that want shows out there. Like, y'all leave her alone, but I don't leave her alone because she loves me and I'm grateful that she does. She puts me on lots of cool shit. So I'm excited to be there. Uh, one of the songwriters that had some influence on what it is that I do. So it's going to be a good full circle moment and definitely a little bit of soul candy for me.
Yeah, for sure. All right, buddy. Well, take care. I love what you're doing. Keep it up.
Thank you, brother. Holler at me. I'll be around.